You know, there are moments in life when you realize the people who are supposed to love and support you unconditionally have a completely different agenda, one that prioritizes their own desires over your well-being. For me, that moment came not once, but twice, and the second time, I decided enough was enough. Was I wrong for what I did? For finally standing up for myself and delivering a reality check to my parents that I know they'll never forget? I need you to tell me if you would have done the same thing, because honestly, I'm still reeling from it all. Let me take you back to where this whole saga began, long before the lavish wedding demands and the explosive confrontation. I grew up in what I thought was a fairly normal middle-class family. My parents always preached the importance of education, hard work, and saving for the future. They always said, work hard and good things will come, and your education is your ticket to a better life. I took those words to heart. I was a diligent student throughout elementary, middle, and high school. I consistently maintained high grades, participated in extracurricular activities, and did everything I could to make myself a strong candidate for college. My dream was to go to a top-tier university, study engineering, and build a career that would allow me to be self-sufficient and eventually help my family if they ever needed it. My younger sister, Sarah, was a different story. She was always the more outgoing, free-spirited one, less concerned with academics and more focused on her social life, fashion, and anything that promised immediate gratification. My parents, however, seemed to adore this about her. They indulged her every whim, bought her the latest gadgets, designer clothes, and never once pushed her academically the way they did me. I often felt like I was the responsible one, the one who had to earn everything, while Sarah just had to exist to receive. It was a subtle dynamic, but it was always there, a low hum beneath the surface of our family life. When it came time for college applications, I poured my heart and soul into them. I applied to several prestigious engineering programs, and to my immense joy and pride, I got accepted into my dream university. It was a highly competitive program, and I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. I rushed to tell my parents, expecting them to share my excitement, to be proud of their son who had worked so hard to achieve this milestone. Their reaction, however, was far from what I anticipated. My dad, after a brief nod, just said, "That's nice, son, but it's a very expensive school, isn't it?" My mom chimed in, "We've been looking at the tuition costs, and it's simply out of our budget. We can't afford it." I was floored. "But you always said education was important. You always said you'd help me go to college." I pleaded, my voice cracking. They looked at each other, and my dad sighed. "We meant a reasonable college, not one that costs an arm and a leg. We have other responsibilities, you know. We have to think about Sarah's future, too." My heart sank. I reminded them about the college fund they had supposedly been contributing to for years. My mom waved her hand dismissively. "That fund is not as big as you think, and with current inflation, it's practically nothing. Besides, we need to keep some savings for emergencies." I tried to argue, to explain the scholarships I had received, the grants I was eligible for, how I could take out student loans and work part-time. But they were unyielding. Their stance was firm. They would not contribute a single cent to my dream university. They suggested I apply to a local community college or a state school with significantly lower tuition. The message was clear. My ambition was too costly, my dreams too inconvenient. I was devastated. It felt like a betrayal. All those years of hard work, all those promises, shattered in an instant. I felt discarded, like my efforts meant nothing to them compared to their other responsibilities, which, let's be honest, mostly revolved around ensuring Sarah had a comfortable and carefree existence. With no financial support from my parents and the overwhelming cost of my dream school, even with scholarships and loans, I had to make an agonizing decision. I reluctantly declined my acceptance to the top university and enrolled in a state school that was still good, but not my first choice. I worked 2 jobs throughout my entire college career, took out maximum student loans, and lived on a shoestring budget. There were many nights I ate instant ramen, many weekends I spent working instead of socializing, and many moments I felt utterly alone and resentful. My parents, meanwhile, never once offered to help, never asked how I was managing, and certainly never offered a single dollar. They seemed perfectly content with my struggles, convinced I was learning the value of hard work. The irony was not lost on me. Fast forward 8 years. I graduated with an engineering degree, albeit from a different school than I envisioned. I worked my tail off, paid off my student loans in record time, and through sheer determination and countless hours, I climbed the corporate ladder. I'm now in a very well-paying position at a prestigious tech company. I bought my own house, a modest but comfortable place that I earned myself. I saved diligently, invested wisely, and built a life that, despite the initial setbacks, I was incredibly proud of. I achieved the self-sufficiency my parents always preached, but without any of their support and in spite of their clear favoritism towards my sister. Sarah, on the other hand, had a much different path. She dabbled in a few different majors at a local college, never really committing to anything, always changing her mind. My parents, of course, paid for all of her tuition, books, and living expenses, no questions asked. She never had to work a day in her life during college. After graduating with a generic liberal arts degree, she bounced around a few entry-level jobs, never staying long, always complaining about how hard it was. My parents continued to support her financially, helping her with rent, car payments, and even funding her frequent shopping sprees and vacations. They often boasted about how generous they were to her, never once mentioning the complete lack of support they gave me. I kept my distance, maintained a polite but emotionally detached relationship with them, and focused on my own life. I visited on holidays, exchanged pleasantries, but never truly felt like their son in the same way Sarah felt like their daughter. Then came the bombshell. Sarah got engaged. Her fiancé, Mark, is a decent guy, but he comes from a very wealthy family, and Sarah, bless her heart, had fully embraced the daughter of privilege role. They wanted a huge, extravagant wedding, a destination, wedding in a luxurious resort, multiple outfit changes, a celebrity DJ, and all the bells and whistles you could imagine. The estimated cost, a staggering $150,000. My parents, who had claimed they couldn't afford to contribute to my college education, were suddenly on board with this exorbitant plan. They were thrilled for Sarah, gushing about her fairy tale wedding and how she deserved nothing but the best. I tried to be happy for her, truly, but a bitter taste lingered in my mouth. I kept my thoughts to myself, figuring it was their money, their choice. Then came the call. My mom. Her voice was dripping with forced sweetness, a tone I knew meant she wanted something. "Sweetheart," she began, "your sister's wedding is coming up, and you know how important this day is for her. We've been looking at the budget, and well, it's a bit tighter than we anticipated, even with Mark's parents contributing." I braced myself. "Oh," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Yes." She continued, "The venue alone is costing a fortune, and Sarah really has her heart set on that specific florist and the custom-designed dress. We were hoping you could help us out a bit. You're doing so well now, such a successful engineer. We were thinking perhaps you could contribute, say, $50,000 towards the wedding costs. It would really take the pressure off us and ensure Sarah has the wedding of her dreams. $50,000. $50,000 for a lavish wedding, after they refused to pay a single cent for my college education, forcing me into years of debt and struggle. The audacity, the sheer, unadulterated gall, I felt a surge of white, hot anger, a feeling I had suppressed for years, finally bubbling to the surface. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself. "Mom," I said, my voice dangerously calm, "did you just ask me for $50,000 to fund Sarah's wedding?" "Yes, dear," she chirped, completely oblivious to the volcanic eruption brewing beneath my calm exterior. "It's a small amount for you, isn't it? And it would mean so much to Sarah." So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Here I was, having pulled myself up by my bootstraps, having worked tirelessly to build a successful life after being abandoned by the very people who should have supported me. And now they expected me to dip into my hard-earned savings to fund a lavish party for my sister, who had always been their golden child, their financial darling. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have caved, given them the money to keep the peace, or would you have finally unleashed years of pent-up resentment? I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, a lifetime of unequal treatment flashing before my eyes. The ramen noodles, the exhausting shifts, the feeling of being less than, all because my dreams were too expensive. And now this, a deep, resonant anger settled within me, firm and unwavering. "Mom," I said, my voice no longer calm, but laced with an icy edge, "do you remember when I got into my dream university, and you and Dad told me you couldn't afford to pay for my tuition? Do you remember telling me that the college fund wasn't enough, that you had other responsibilities, and that I should just go to a cheaper school or figure it out myself?" There was a pause on the other end, a hesitant "well, yes, but..." I cut her off. "Do you remember how I worked 2 jobs, took out massive student loans, and lived practically in poverty for 4 years to get my degree? Do you remember how I paid off every single cent of that debt myself, without a single dollar of help from either of you?" Another silence, longer this time. "Yes, we remember you worked hard," she said, her voice now a little defensive. "Good," I continued, my voice gaining strength, "because I remember too. I remember every single agonizing moment. I remember feeling abandoned and betrayed. And now you have the audacity to ask me for $50,000 for Sarah's wedding, a wedding that is clearly a frivolous expense, a testament to her fairy tale life that you've always funded so generously. $50,000 when you couldn't spare $50 for my future when it truly mattered." My mom stammered, "But it's different. Sarah deserves a beautiful wedding, and you have the money now. You're successful." "Exactly, Mom," I shot back, the dam finally breaking. "I have the money now because I worked my ass off for it, because I built this life for myself without your help. And you know what else? I learned a valuable lesson from you both back then. You only invest in what you truly value." And it was clear then, and it's even clearer now, that you valued Sarah's comfort and happiness over my education and future. You chose to invest in her frivolous desires, and you chose to let me struggle. There was a gasp on the other end, then my dad's voice, booming and angry. He must have picked up the extension. "Don't you dare speak to your mother that way. This is about family, about helping your sister. Family." I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Where was family when I was trying to figure out how to pay for textbooks? Where was family when I was missing meals because I couldn't afford groceries? You want to talk about family. Family supports each other. Family doesn't play favorites to the point of outright neglect for one child's future while showering the other with endless luxuries. This is ungrateful. My dad bellowed, "After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me." I challenged, my voice rising. "You housed and fed me until I was 18, as any parent should. Beyond that, you gave me nothing but empty promises and a mountain of debt. And now you expect me to fund a fantasy wedding for the daughter you always spoiled rotten. Not a chance, not one single cent. My mom started crying, a theatrical sob that always used to work on me. How can you be so selfish? Sarah will be heartbroken, heartbroken. I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. She's marrying a wealthy man and having a destination wedding. I think she'll survive without my 50 grand. Maybe you too should consider scaling back the lavish part if you can't afford it yourselves. Or perhaps for once you could ask Sarah to contribute to something instead of just receiving. The line went silent. I could hear them whispering, then my dad's voice low and furious, "You'll regret this. You'll regret treating your family this way." "I don't think so, Dad," I said, a sense of liberation washing over me. "I think I'll regret it if I don't stand up for myself. I've spent too long being the second-class child, and I'm done. You made your choices, and now you have to live with the consequences of those choices. As for Sarah's wedding, I won't be contributing financially. And frankly, after this conversation, I'm not sure I'll even be attending." I hung up. The silence in my apartment was deafening, yet it felt incredibly peaceful. The relief was immediate, palpable. The years of resentment, the feeling of being overlooked and undervalued, had finally erupted, and for the first time I felt truly seen, truly heard, even if it was just by myself. The aftermath was exactly what I expected, a barrage of angry texts from my mom, calling me ungrateful, selfish, and a terrible son. My dad left a scathing voicemail, threatening to disown me. Sarah even called, tearfully accusing me of trying to ruin her special day and being jealous. I ignored them all. I blocked their numbers for a few weeks, needing space to process. The wedding did happen, of course. My parents, in a desperate scramble, managed to secure a loan or dip into their retirement savings to cover the deficit. I heard through the grapevine that it was indeed a fairy tale, and Sarah was ecstatic. I didn't go. I sent a polite card with a small, generic gift, but I drew a firm line. It's been a few months since then. My relationship with my parents is practically non-existent. We exchange texts on major holidays, but the warmth is gone, replaced by a lingering chill. Sarah doesn't speak to me, and honestly, it hurts, but it also feels like a heavy weight has been lifted. I finally stood up for myself, for the child who was denied opportunities, for the young man who had to fight for everything he achieved. I gave them a reality check, a stark reminder of their past choices and the repercussions they now face. They'll never forget it, and neither will I. So here I am, sharing my story. Like this video if you were on my side, if you think I was right to finally draw a line in the sand. Subscribe for more stories like this, because I'm sure there are plenty of others out there who have experienced similar family dynamics. And please share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'm curious to hear if you would have handled it differently, or if you agree that sometimes you just have to protect yourself, even from your own family. I'll see you all in the next story.